440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. Don't forget, we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth981. And you can even post a comment on there. The analysts this morning, AB Bozimo and Joseph Obari. Good morning.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Joseph. And good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Happy Friday.
Good morning, Nebi. Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, everybody listening to us. You're welcome to the show. Thank you.
All right, let's start off with our first headline, and this is coming from Daily Trust. Tinubu establishes a national education data system. AB?
Yes, the president has approved a system-wide policy to overhaul the education sector, all contained inside a nice acronym. I think it's actually nice, DOTS, which stands for Data Repository, Out of School Children Education, Teacher Training and Development, and Skill Development and Acquisition. I always like stories that have to do with education because honestly, the greatest gift you can give to a person or a society is to energize their imaginations. At that point, they can think their way out of any challenges, even Nigeria's challenges, if you will. So this is a new announcement because there is supposedly a lack of coordinated, verifiable and authentic data on all aspects of the education sector. And that is critical for planning. We've heard all the time about these huge numbers of out-of-school children. This is also trying to capture that information and add it to the planning process. So the Federal Ministry of Education is already trying to implement this policy, and hopefully as it evolves, it'll enhance the education and training of students in school and capture and assist those who are out of school. Education at its heart is about opening a society's minds to possibilities known and unknown, because every innovation came from some form of education, formal or informal. I'm very glad to hear about this kind of policy, and I'm delighted by this little acronym. When you think of children and dots, it has a certain symmetry to it. Dots is playful, but it certainly has core important things. Out of school children, teacher training, especially, and skills development and acquisition. Great.
All right, thank you, AB, for that. We're going on to the next headline, and this one's coming from Punch. 80 billion naira money laundering. Federal government places Yaya Bello on watch list. Immigration alerts DSS. Joseph?
Well, I mean, this drama that started playing out in Abuja on Wednesday simply is an ugly one. You can't have that kind of thing happening in a society where you say you have law and order. A former governor, the former governor of Kogi State, was to be arrested by EFCC. His residence in Abuja was surrounded by their operatives. And then another, a serving governor, I mean, a governor, his successor comes in and takes him away from being arrested. That's brigandage. It's simply just lawlessness that should not be encouraged anywhere. Yeah, the governor has immunity, but of course, if he commits a crime of this magnitude, perhaps somebody has to wait for him to answer the question one day, but he shouldn't go scot-free. The drama has been long playing. AFCC, on its own part, has been in court. Yaya Bello has been to court challenging some of the allegations against him. But the reasonable thing he should have done was simply to just go and answer, a call. There have been governors who have gone there and nothing happened. I mean, we know of Obiano. Obiano was with FCC for answering question. Where is he today? Is he in jail? I mean, there are so many other governors and people, former governors and people who have gone to EFCC. EFCC is, we're really beginning to wonder whether it's a corruption fighting agency also, So it's putting on watch list is just, it's just routine. It's the fact that he is a person of interest now because he suggests that somebody who can, is a flight risk, he can run away. If you're avoiding arrest and on this manner, dramatic manner, going with groups of people, talks to prevent you being arrested, then of course it's appropriate that the proper security agencies are able to begin to look at him and say, oh, this man is a flight risk, he might run away and all that and all that. I think our politicians should begin to learn to respect the rule of law. And all you need to do is go to court. If you're in court, yes, you're challenging whatever EFCC is doing. You do it. You just do it according to the law. That's simply, and this doesn't show, it's not good example in any way, So I mean, I don't blame EFCC that they activate the other security agencies to put him on watch list, but it is just embarrassing that we have this kind of situation happening right before our eyes.
All right, thank you, Joseph, for that. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981, and you can send your messages through via WhatsApp or just tweet at smooth981. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. We're moving on to the headline coming from Vanguard. FG should simplify trade procedures to boost economy, and this according to the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Okay, the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Idahosa, had this to say at the quarterly media briefing on the state of the economy. Now, he said that the government has to create an atmosphere, which you could call an enabling environment, that will promote export growth and competitiveness and hopefully boost export earnings, raise domestic revenue, improve citizen welfare, and increase business productivity. He's saying all the right things. And as a business, the head of a business group, these are the things he has to put in front of the government. He's also recommending that they simplify and harmonize trade procedures and address bottlenecks at the ports, congestion, and transportation costs. Some of these transportation costs are increased by the state of the roads. Then they're also increased by some of the personnel allegedly along the roads that take illegal taxes from every single lorry and truck passing, allegedly in uniform. But I focused on that issue of the ports. He says correctly that Nigeria should be the economic powerhouse of the continent, and indeed, I would argue the world. We are literally at the trigger. If you look at Africa as a gun pointing downward, we're the trigger. We can make everything happen. But funny enough, the news came out yesterday that we've slid down to the fourth largest economy by GDP in the past few weeks or months because of some of the changes going on in Nigeria. Well, that gives us what to climb up to. I think South Africa is one, Egypt is another, so is Algeria. Now, balancing the economy is a very delicate thing. He gives credit and kudos to the government for seeing the level of interest exchange rate of the naira sliding down towards 1,000. But this is why I talk about balancing. You don't necessarily want an exchange rate that is down to 2 naira to $1 if you are not a productive nation. And so as the business side is talking, the manufacturing side has to talk, the services sector, we want ultimately to arrive at an exchange rate that enables us get necessary inputs from outside, but also allows us to produce competitively enough to export to the outside. And that's the balance that has to be set. But of course, he is speaking on behalf of the LCCI, and he has his points to make. I think those points will be taken on board by the managers of the economy, and they will be added to every other thing in the alchemy that it is to make a functional economy. Ultimately, where we'll end up in terms of naira dollar exchange rate should be driven most by the need to promote our exports. We don't want our exports to be so expensive that they are impossible to buy from elsewhere. And it'll take, apart from these things at the ports, our power sector. We're hearing stories in the power sector that are not too helpful right now. People are changing their consumption patterns. People are literally cutting themselves off from NEPA all day, all night. It's one thing to make a policy, but you must look at it in the larger sense. So he's making good points, but I think they must be considered in the context of everything else it takes around.
Just
thank
let
you.
me make
Yes.
an input to that story. It's I don't know whether the LCCI leader was away or, but on Tuesday something very interesting developed where the federal government launched what they call the Nigerian single window project, which is actually addressing all these things which the LCCI is concerned about. It's a trade portal, more or less. In fact, it's going to address most of all these things that the LCCI is concerned about. And it's a very beautiful initiative. I'm sure one of the things I give it up for this administration are some of the beautiful initiatives that are coming up, like the education one that we discussed, the first topic we discussed. And then this other one, trade window, is a single trade window is very important. And all these things that are being outlined by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce is going to be tackled by that agency. It's going warehoused with the Federal Inland Revenue Services and the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. These are two agencies that are saddled with the responsibility for implementing that single window project. And when it is done, from what they have outlined during the launch on Tuesday, is going to address all these concerns that have been raised by the Chamber of Commerce. I
All
just
right.
thought I
Thank you,
should.
Joseph. Let's look at some of the messages coming through. Dan Okuda says, Yaya Bello should save us this high drama. He should turn himself into the EFCC and have his day in court. No citizen is above the law, and his immunity has ended. Pastor Dakpo says, when people in authority start dipping their itchy fingers into public treasury, they tend to forget that power is transient. No condition is permanent, and that it is the Almighty who delegates the right to be a financial distributor. This Yaya Bello Fellows case is just one more typical example of an over-exuberant government official. A message coming through from Chukwuemeka. He says, Mr. Joseph, how can our able leaders obey or respect the rule of law when they have stolen so much money to buy favor from the law courts?
Yeah.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues shortly.
It's a shame.
Yeah, that drama was the danger in that drama was all these different groups of heavily armed people.
Yeah.
Anything could
have been so volatile. Yeah.
I'm telling you, anything could have set up a conflagration, and both the authorized security people and even passers-by could have been harmed. That was what troubled me the most about it. About the parties in question, I couldn't give a hoot. But that whole thing where you amass your own set of security, another set comes, then the governor comes with his own. I think it was, thank goodness, nothing dramatic and life-threatening happened. But yes, the governor should go for his day in court. He's a big man. He won't spend more than a few hours.
Okay, going on. Smooth 98.1. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the headlines across the country. Be a part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. You can post a comment on there. And you can also tweet or X at Smooth981. Next headline comes from Daily Trust. The case for state policing. All right, the headline says, we'll soon disclose our stance on state police, IG. Joseph?
I mean, it sounds ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. What's the stance? We don't really want to know what you think as the IG. If you want to contribute that to those who are going to make the law, or if there's going to be a law made, it's not for us to tell, oh, we are going to take it. What's the stance of the police? Yes, the IG, the police, the authorities can make contribution. I mean, at a time when a law is being passed, because there's no how we are going to have state police without amendment of our constitution. So that lawmaking process will require stakeholder engagement
All
where
stakeholders.
people, all stakeholders will come and speak on it and then make contribution. If the IG has got a paper or whatever stamp upon, he should present that at that stage. Sometimes we just make statements, public officers don't make statements, maybe for the sake of it, and maybe they would just want to say something, I don't know. But sometimes it's very shocking. So the police, yes, can make contribution, but it's high time. We are talking about addressing security, this insecurity in the country, and whatever is going to work. We think that when the IG is speaking, it should be cerebral in whatever he's saying. Is look, this how this should be. These are the things we need to address. If he feels that the police as it exists today is okay, is adequate to police Nigeria, and his view is contrary, then he should be able to outline all of this, but he should present it to those who to whom it is relevant in making sure that we change the law for us to either have or not to have state police. So whatever opinion he has now, the majority of Nigerians desire that there should be improvement in policing in the country, and the present police structure is not helping us. Even the number is it's inadequate. So all the harmonization of security agencies and proliferations that is going on at state level, informal policing and all that, how can it, these are the kind of discussions we want to have, and not simply say, I will let my opinion know. This issue has been on the table for quite a while now, and the police, the IG is just coming up and saying, oh, well, I'm going to let my opinion known. At what time will you let it known? You can start the conversation now, and then we can know whether it makes sense what you're saying, and then you can fine tune so that even when you're presenting your document to the National Assembly, it's refined. It has a lot of it's a robust presentation. So start conversation. As stakeholder engagement is involved, and that's what it means.
All right, just coming off the back of the previous story with the incident with the former Kogi State governor, maybe, while the mics were off, we spoke a little bit about, various security agencies being at that scene and a potential for a catastrophe to have happened. What does this do to the case for state policing? A lot of people have been concerned that it could sort of become a tool for political leaders in states to use them at their disposal.
I think at the heart of it, we have to move away from literally feigning allegiance to individuals, to feigning and to swearing allegiance to authority and the Constitution. Right now, the fear about state policing is that the politicians have so impoverished people, including the security people, that once they give them favors, the fear is that the security people will now be pliable and able to be bent to the whim and the will of the politician. But if the security people are sworn to the Constitution and to the office, then when a person is no longer in that office, they will be obeying what the new official says or what the authorities say. So I, like Joseph, feel state policing has a place in Nigeria. We'll discuss matters of jurisdiction, we'll discuss matters of scope of, what you can look into and all that, and how you can escalate it over to a more or less federal police. But right now, we have insufficient numbers. We have crime at levels, both minor and major, that need to be tackled. As we're making that change to the policing of the country, we must also make changes to the distribution of money, because policing needs funding. So those are the kinds of conversations we're having, and we cannot be held back by our fears rather than propelled by potential positive outcomes. I don't think fear is a good strategy upon which to freeze ourselves in a position of helplessness. I certainly don't think so.
Joseph, did you want to add?
Well, I think you just captured it all.
Okay.
What could have happened there, who knows? But just like you said, we cannot be held back by our fears. When you have a problem, what you do is to marshal out strategies to overcome those challenges that you fear. And that's why there is this robust discussion, and that's why there should be discussion. And that's why the IG himself talked about the debate going on. It should be part of the debate. It should say something. Then we can all recognize what their concerns are, and then we can now address them one by one. So we shouldn't hold back on that.
He's
All
an
right,
interested party, a major stakeholder.
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's look at the messages coming through. EK Peter, I know you like the conversation, but please don't call, just send messages. This one says, it's easy to blame Yaya Bello. He clearly must have misappropriated funds. However, the court issued an order preventing his arrest, and that is what he's leveraging on. We should blame our judges. In this case, the courts are creating this confusion. Who is it that two courts with coordinate jurisdiction granted an order to EFCC to arrest, and another court ruled he shouldn't be arrested? That's from EK. Gilbert says, Gilbert Musa from Festac, on the Yaya Bello story, let's cast our mind back to 1998 when information reached Nigeria that an immediate late military head of state had looted the treasury of the country. This continuous alleged looting points to the fact that we have weak institutions in Nigeria that permit leakage of our common wealth. Abbas says, we don't have state police yet, and we can see what a governor did with the power he has, using the security personnel that he controls to thwart the arrest of someone who had some questions to answer. Imagine what they will do with police under their control, and how many of the states have even paid the minimum wage of their civil servants. We're all clamoring for state police without looking at some of the other wider pictures. That is not fear, but reality on ground. How will states that are struggling to pay salaries cater for the needs of people that are going to be carrying arms? Please keep the messages coming. WhatsApp number 0809 440 981. From Vanguard, 31.75 million children in child labor. And this is according to the National Bureau of Statistics.
And I was one of those children put to child labor by my mom to make my bed and clean the dishes. And I'm injured, wounded, and scandalized till today. That's on a lighter note. Indeed, there are reports that, a huge number, about 52.5% of children, over half, are engaged in child labor, which is children between the ages of like 5 and 17 doing things. We see them all day, every day, unfortunately, around us. You're walking past somewhere, you see ladies getting their hair done, you see a little girl holding a bowl and pouring the water out. You're going somewhere, you see a young boy, helping somebody do some welding or some mechanic work. And there's nothing wrong with doing some work after school hours, but in many cases, these people are there from morning till night, meaning they're also being denied of an education. Listen, I talked about it in the first story. Some of them actually qualify as these out of school children, just that maybe they're not out in the wild, they're in the urban centers. Some of them are also engaged in agricultural activity. Please, by all means, children to a certain limited extent must be assigned chores as part of responsibility, but we have to create a society where the preeminent priority of ensuring that your child is properly educated at the right times is put on the top burner, and then all the other things can fall behind it. And then they also talked further about forced labor, which is people who are forced to work when they did not hold themselves out to be workers, and when people are holding things like wages over their heads and threatening them with it. The bottom line is this: child labor has to be seen for the menace it is, not just in the immediate term, but on the long-term development of children. Again, it goes back to creating the environment. In some cases, the parents of these people may not engage them if the economic situation and circumstances are better, and they can, assure themselves that this child goes to school and we can hire people to do the work that we need done. It's a challenging statistic. Over 50%, over half of Nigerian children are involved in some child labor to an extent and a degree. It also talks about our society. A society is only as good as how we treat the least or the most vulnerable amongst us. Nobody can argue that children largely are more vulnerable than adults. So we must come up with policies like the earliest policy that help capture and corral this information, and then come up, like Joseph said, with strategies to tackle it. It may not happen all at once, but with proper strategy and deep thinking, we can tackle it. And then we have to have measurable things. If it's 52.5% now, can we drop it by 10% or 15%? And in what time frame? Are we talking about a year? Are we talking about over a term of a governance, 4 years? In 4 years, can we drop it by half? Those are the kind of measurable numbers that we must handle, and then we can tackle these problems in a more, aggressive way.
All right, thank you for that, AB. Let's go on to the next headline. Strange disease, NCDC meets Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kaduna health commissioners. And this comes from Punch.
Well, I don't know what kind of strange disease it is. They are talking about the disease originated from Sokoto and Zamfara states and it's spreading towards Kaduna. So the Disease Center for Disease Control has launched an investigation to find out what actually the disease is. And that's why it's being called strange, because so far 164 children aged between 13 years and so on have died in Sokoto alone. So it's a serious source of concern. I don't know if the report was not picked up early enough when it started so that it can be investigated. And the nature of it is not clear, because is it a viral infection? Nobody really knows. It's a bacterial infection. It's just unclear. It's just that people are dying, and that's really worrisome, So there's somewhere they said that in Zamfara, the Commissioner for Health revealed that a cause, as well as it's sources of mitigating the impact on children is unknown. The origin of disease is unknown, and that's really very, very worrisome. Because if states have infectious disease centers, that's what we expected that the COVID experience would have taught us, that by now all states ministries of health would have in place very functional infectious disease centers, where once things like this happen, there you have scientists who can begin investigation before the National Center for Disease Control will come in. So to throw your hands up in the air and say, we don't know, people are dying and so on, we are going to check, we cannot even investigate, it's not helpful, because the state is at the subnational level, you have full responsibility for the health of the people, even more than the federal government, which is high up there. So we need to begin to think differently, and that is not happening. It's not happening. And otherwise, why would 3 states, even Zamfara, Sokoto is going to Kaduna, there is still something unknown about the disease? What is so mysterious about it? At least you should be able to label it. It's a viral disease. It is this. These are the characteristics. These are a kind of intelligent conversation we should be having. Commissioners of health should come out and say, this is what we've observed is happening to these people who are dying. At least basically, that's what we should say. But this whole information is vague. It's unclear. Oh, we have a disease. It's just killing people. We don't know the origin, blah, blah, blah. So I hope that eventually we're able to resolve this dilemma, and the NCDC will be able to find a clear definition for what is going on and strategy for tackling it.
All right, thank you, Joseph, for that. Let's look at the messages. This one is from Fabian. Fabian says, the issue regarding the EFCC and Governor Yaya Bello should not be looked at with kid gloves. Security agencies need to work more harmoniously with each other. No one should be or appear to be above the law. The same extends to those presently being charged for abusing the Naira. Oluwaseyi says, no one really cares what the IG of police thinks about state police. He's an employee of the people and was appointed to serve. The situation of the country shows that time has come. Yes, there are lots of worries with how our emperor governors will utilize them against the people and opponents. But the truth is we need it now, because the national police, with allegiance to the central government, has failed in protecting Nigerians. All right, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages. And of course, once again, special thanks to our analysts for joining us this morning, Joseph Obari and AB Bozimo. Thank you.
President
Agree.
Zibby,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much. My pleasure.
Agree, disagree, AB?
Hit me up at AB Bozimo on all platforms.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Have
Thank
a
you,
lovely
AB.
weekend and stay safe. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Have a brilliant day ahead. Thank you for being with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast. Stay with us.